messing with some raw dudes, wrestling, talking, raw views, previews, recaps, and interviews. Definition of professional, tell me what you expected though. Facts are checked when information's collected, yo. We body slamming all these wrestling brands, but of course that's the case when A&T's on hand. We going head to head, this ain't a ratings war. Now's your chance to chat with Steven, what you waiting for?
Welcome everyone to another episode of Raw Views. My name is Steven, and today I'll be breaking down a little bit of AEW and NXT from last night. Also, I'll have a special guest, Marie Shadows, a former employee of WWE, and also the host of the Squared Circle podcast. So let's go ahead and jump into it. The biggest story still on Wednesdays is the Undisputed Era, and I'm gonna first talk about what I didn't like, but I don't want to focus on that. I try not to focus on the negatives. I didn't really like any of the promo work. I thought the Cole promo ran a little too long. I thought Strong's promo was a little flat. But all the action surrounding it, I thought Balor brought great intensity. I thought Adam Cole brought a good smugness to him at the end. I thought he brought good intensity. And there at the end, Roddy Strong hugging Adam Cole. You think that they're going to get back together. Again, I want to make a visual note. Adam Cole wearing a different color Undisputed Era jacket than Roddy Strong's shirt. Strong wearing the red and black. Cole wearing the black and white or black and gray. I'm not sure if that's going to come into play, but, they're obviously not wearing the same colors for a reason. But, and also I want to touch on, I wish they would have done something at the beginning of the show to set the tone for the show, right? This is something that I talk about a lot. AEW did the same thing. I thought they could have started the night with something TNT ladder match, number one contender tournament thing, and then closed with Archer and Phoenix. They didn't do that either. I prefer a show that has a nice flow. We have a beginning, we have an end, and that the beginning and the end have something to do with each other than the fact they're both on a wrestling program. So I would have loved to have seen Adam Cole showing up to the building, right? And then even maybe at 8:30 have Roddy Strong show up to the building to show, they didn't show up together. They showed up separately, which is why Strong, would have come out mid-promo and cut off Cole, right? That tells you a story throughout the night, and it closes it really well. Now, I want to really focus on the positives, because right now I think Adam Cole is doing great work as a character. Right, he's bringing the right amount of emotion, the right amount of intensity. I love the idea of this angle. I don't know where it's going to go, though. I think there's a few different ways it could go. They did say Kyle O'Reilly would be out 4 to 6 weeks. Note that is right around WrestleMania time. So the NXT before Mania, if it is a takeover, as I've heard it might be, then you could then see Adam Cole, or Kyle O'Reilly cost Adam Cole maybe the championship. Do we get a Strong Cole match in between? Do we end up getting a O'Reilly Strong Cole Balor match? Or do we see Balor, Strong, and O'Reilly team up together, form a group together? Where does this leave Fish when he returns? Does Cole end up bringing in help for himself? A lot of questions here, and that's good. Just like I talked about on my Raw recap, I like more paths. Anytime that you can create more logical paths for a story, that story tends to be better. Why? Because it keeps your audience guessing just a little bit, even if the most logical path is the path you do take. Let's flip on over to AEW now. The biggest story is Jon Moxley. Is Kenny Omega? Is that championship? I thought Jon Moxley brought it really well on the microphone last night. I thought that he conveyed a sense of rage, almost that quiet rage, where all he wants at this point is to get his hands on Kenny Omega, and he doesn't care how. He doesn't care what that match is. He just wants to get his hands on Kenny Omega because he's been wronged. He is playing this babyface role really, really well, in my opinion. I think he's conveying to the audience a character that has been beaten to the point where he might do something that a traditional character of that way might not do. So, he's a babyface. He's been pushed to the point where he may break the limits of being a babyface because his hatred for Kenny Omega is just that I didn't really like the Kenny Omega Extermination Chamber thing. I'm not going to go into Extermination Chamber. I will say that it is probably not the best thing to say on television in 2021. I do understand that I think they were trying to poke fun at the Elimination Chamber. I didn't really care for Omega's promo. It feels like with Kenny Omega, where he started, where he is, there's something about it that feels a little off to me. I don't feel like we're in the same book that we started with him in this role. Not to say that we can't get there, but I am excited to see Moxley Omega. I'm just not excited about the match, if that makes sense. Something else from AEW last night. We have the Bucks, we have Jericho, we have MJF, we have the Bucks' dad being involved. Look, don't take this so serious, guys. I'm sure the Bucks' dad just wanted to do something with the Bucks. Like, why wouldn't you? And the Bucks are in the position to do something like that. Jericho and MJF aren't going to look worse by doing this. Who cares? Let them have their dad in a feud or in an angle with them. It's cool. It's cool for them. It's a perk to being an EVP or EVPs. And, we're going to get we should get a good match at Revolution. I'm really interested to see Jericho and MJF tag against one of the best tag teams in wrestling. I'm not going to touch on Paul White or the announcement about Elevation. I did that yesterday. If you want to catch my thoughts on that, just go into the channel and click my show from yesterday. Finally, with NXT, we have The Way. We have Dexter Lumis, we have Austin Theory, where it looks like Lumis has almost put some sort of spell or something on Theory and Indy, who's kind of intrigued by Lumis, while Gargano and Candice doesn't really understand why. I love the dynamic here. I think it adds a layer to these characters where Gargano really just wants Theory to become great and to follow his path. But Theory just keeps detouring off here and there, and it frustrates Johnny, which over time will tell a really great story of when these two feud at some point. I'm really enjoying The Way. Honestly, last night's television was fine. It was good television. I thought Cross and Escobar was the match of the night. I thought they absolutely did everything that you should do in a no DQ match like that without having to do anything to put the performers at risk of real injury. So I dug everything in their match. I thought it was Cross's best match on television. Cameron Grimes trying to be a better version of Ted DiBiase was great stuff for NXT. I thought Phoenix and Archer was a really good main event match for AEW. I'm excited by both Wednesday shows. I think right now they're in a really good spot. I'm intrigued by next week's bookings, of course. I'm intrigued by next week's shows, but I do think that both shows can get better, which isn't a bad thing. That means they can get better, and they're already good. So now I'm going to bring on a special guest, Marie Shadows, the Squared Circle podcast, and we're going to break down some of the top storylines from both shows. And in this next segment today, I'm going to bring in a very good friend of mine on Twitter. She's from the Twitter streets. She is from the Squared Circle podcast. Everybody welcome Marie Shadows. Marie, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, so it is a beautiful 70-degree sunny day here in North Carolina. How's the weather like by you? Where do you live, by the way?
I am from New York City. I'm from the Bronx.
All right. How is it up there right now? You guys still getting some snow, or?
Well, the snow just passed us. Right now, it's a very sunny day, which might turn into not a sunny day because it's weird over here. But for most of the part, it's nice and sunny outside.
Well, that's beautiful. Now, so I am from the Southeast. I was born and raised in Southeast United States. Until I met my wife, I hadn't traveled north of North Carolina. My wife is from outside the city, New York, is what I'm supposed to say. She's like, she's like northeast of the city by like an hour and a half is where she was from. So when I was a kid, I thought just like New York was this giant city. And then I went there to visit. It is gorgeous up there. Like the country of New York is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it is. I remember my friend had a wedding, and we all went like upstate New York. So we left the city, and everything around there is like so beautiful and stuff. But once you come into New York City, it's a whole nother jungle, and like it prepares you to like survive freaking life.
Yeah,
it prepares you.
I don't want to make this all about me finding New York for the first time, but so I went to Times Square and everything. My wife took me to the city, and I was like a deer in the headlights. I had never seen anything like this. But I mean, like literally the biggest city I think I had been in before then was probably one of the big three Floridas, like Jacksonville, Orlando, or Miami. And that's nothing like New York City.
No, I mean, I was born and raised in New York City, so I grew up in Manhattan, and then I just moved to the Bronx, and it's been my life ever since. And I hate it, and I want to move and go to a different place and experience different things.
How about Stamford, Connecticut?
Oh man, I traveled there. I guess we're gonna get into like my background right now.
Just real quick,
So for anyone that's listening to this, I used to work for WWE. I used to work for them for 3 months, and I don't regret anything that I ever did with WWE at all. It was a wonderful experience. I would wake up at 4:00 in the morning here in the Bronx just to take the Metro North all the way up to Connecticut to get there by 8 in the morning to sit at a cubicle for 8 hours to work on the WWE network, to make sure that the SEO for you guys were great. So if you want to search for like John Cena matches, you'll get his matches. If you wanted to search for like Big Show or like anything that happened, like I was there to fix it. So I did that for 3 months. Wake up at 4, get over there by 8, and then come back, travel back and forth. But the train ride was fun. Yeah.
I met you as a lifelong wrestler. I'm assuming you're a lifelong wrestling fan. You know, getting that letterhead and an offer from WWE, no matter what it is, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be a pretty cool thing for the fan inside of you. Like, hey, I worked for WWE.
Yeah, so basically, I've been a fan ever since I was like 7. My dad got me into it. He was a really huge fan of Ric Flair, the Four Horsemen, all the like real good technical wrestlers.
Yeah.
And he just passed it on to me. And I knew from an early age I wanted to be involved in wrestling, whether that was going to be a wrestler. Obviously, that didn't work out. So my backup plan is to be a writer, and I got my writing degree. I have my publishing certificate, and I wanted to be a writer for WWE for so long that I kept applying. But I got my foot in the door a different way to get the network job. And no matter what, it was my dream come true. I conquered it. I even called my dad and I was like, Dad, I made it to WWE. And it was like the best thing I ever did. And I'm getting like teary-eyed just fucking talking about it right now. It's because wrestling holds a very special place in my heart for like creative wise. And, it just teaches you how to attack life. Because, growing up, when you watch those stories of wrestlers getting bullied and then their story is that they come out on top and they teach you lessons, so that's why it holds a special place in my heart for me growing up and loving it.
And we're going to transition from this real quick, but I will say a lot of people make fun of the Be a Star campaign WWE does. I don't think people fully understand for some of these kids in elementary and middle school when they see these wrestlers and they hear their stories about being bullied and stuff, how it actually touches them as a kid. I know as an adult, a 20-year-old, it's cool to bash on that kind of stuff. But for these kids, it's pretty cool. And an ambassador for that, you've already mentioned the Big Show, Big Show on the show today. Let's talk real quick. Paul White, the Big Show. The announcement comes out yesterday. He's going to be back in ring. Probably might be the best shape of his life, by the way.
Yeah.
He's going to be back in ring. He's going to be behind commentary. You got to believe he's going to be backstage helping some of these young guys. What did you think as soon as you saw that news drop?
All right, so we gotta separate some stuff, right?
Sure.
Paul White, Big Show. We're gonna call him Big Show.
Yeah, let's call him Big Show.
I have nothing against Big Show at all. I have all the respect in the world for him. He earned his dues. He could do whatever he wants. He can go to whichever company he wants. Cool. I'll support you either way. But me as someone who's been trying to get back into the business and try to help out and be like a new voice or just to like help in the back, to see that is sort of like, well, there's other people waiting for their chance to help anyone improve.
Okay.
You know, so as much as I, don't mind that Big Show's in AEW and that he's going to be doing commentary and maybe some in-ring stuff, I don't mind that. But also look at the up-and-coming generation that can do commentary, that can help out backstage, that can help out everyone else, so that way no one else could be stressed, So I was a little bit like on the fence and sort of frustrated because it's like, as much as I have my own podcast and you have your own podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Both of us can definitely help out the business to progress it further and even help out the young guys, Yeah. It's just one of those things that I don't want to sound selfish. I don't want to sound bitter, but Big Show already accomplished everything. It's just that I sort of, want to be noticed too.
Well, I think it's one of those things, and I think you probably speak for a percentage of people that are young, that are looking for their foot in the door, that is chomping at the bit. I mean, you just saw WWE bring in a mass amount of young, absolute stud star talents, right?
Yeah.
Christian Casanova has everything that you absolutely need to become a top flight star in wrestling. Alex Zane, Blake Christian, on and on and on, right? And you got to believe that at some point, like when you're an indie wrestler and you've talked to indie wrestlers, I've talked to indie wrestlers, I've helped indie promotions, and you hear their desire and their want. I'm assuming that you're not the only person that looks at that and says, I wish like they would give that spot to a younger person. And I think it's not one of those things where you want to disrespect the Big Show or that he doesn't deserve it. It's just one of those things where you want to fight and scratch and claw, and you feel like you're always fighting from underneath.
Yeah, definitely, man. I'll share this story with you.
Sure.
For those of you that don't know, I am the manager to JD Alpha. He's my client. He's an indie wrestler, and I basically, record his matches, and I go with him. But usually in the car, we're with other wrestlers, and these are other indie wrestlers from the New York scene. And I remember we were driving, and there's this one wrestler named Ace Andrews, and he always comes up with like cool ideas and stuff. So, he'll turn around and ask us, hey, do you think I should call this bag, rather than calling it a bag, can I call it a satchel? A satchel and whatnot, because his whole idea was that he was going to put like fake title belts in the damn bag and like parade it around when we got to the show to be like, oh, these are, the BWF titles and stuff like that. Cause they were going to get the other titles from the show and stuff like, just being around them constantly and seeing how hard they work. I have like a backstage firsthand knowledge and love for these guys. So yeah, I totally agree that sometimes, you put all this work in, you get frustrated when like someone else gets the spot, but then you kind of just work harder to try to get it and hope you're getting noticed. But these young guys, sometimes they need direction when it comes to their character work. And that's what I get like, and that's what I get passionate about, that like, especially in AEW behind the scenes, like I'm not really there, but I know that not every indie star can drive their character forward. And that's why I like want to push myself to be like, hey, I can help you guys with that. I can make it consistent, because there's no consistency now.
Let me ask you this just real quick. Are you guys going to be down for Mania weekend?
I have no idea what's happening. I will say that the only show that I know that's going on with JD Alpha, if that's what you mean, is it's a show booked in Jersey on March 27th. But as far as like Mania weekend, I don't know what's happening.
Let's catch up in the DMs about that. We'll transition on.
All right, cool.
Let's talk a little Undisputed Era. Might be the biggest story on Wednesday nights right now. Rather, last night Adam Cole comes out. And I said this at the top of the show, I am fully invested into this angle, but much like the Kenny Omega angle, there's parts of this angle where it just kind of falls off for me, where I'm really excited about the overall story of it, but there's pieces within the performance of the story that I like. Adam Cole's promo last night in ring kind of fell a little flat. Roddy Strong, never been the strongest promo worker. It fell a little flat. But the action around it and Balor coming out and the attacks and everything else, it was solid. What do you think right now about this Undisputed Era story? And on Wednesday nights when NXT has kind of failed to deliver those really well thought out stories.
I really want to say that Adam Cole's work with his intensity, it's really nice. I managed to catch the clip of him giving the low blow to Roderick Strong.
Yep.
And I felt the animosity in that.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's like a really good performance between the two. And then, I mean, someone said it was going to be a low blow, but just the action of seeing it, I was like, wow. Now we have to ask ourselves if Undisputed Era was just always Adam Cole. And it was never about the other guys, but the other guys tagged along because they knew Adam Cole, and it's one of those, let me ride your coattails. I like the fact that Finn Balor is getting into it too. Finn Balor is freaking phenomenal. He's phenomenal in like his in-ring work, and just you getting the feeling of I need to cheer for this guy, even though he's a bad guy. And then they could have a really nice series of matches between Finn Balor and Adam Cole, because they'll put on one hell of a show. Now I think that, it's probably time for Undisputed Era to sort of break up, unfortunately, because I don't know what else is there for them to do.
Let me tell you this. You're a lifelong wrestling fan. My guess is you're probably a little bit younger than me, maybe my same age. I'm in my early 30s.
30 tomorrow.
Okay. Happy birthday.
No, wait. Wait. You're going to have to cut that out. Sorry. I'm going to be 30 in March. Not tomorrow. I'm going to be 30 in March, and I'm freaking out.
Well, 30's great, by the way. I'm 34. But so you grew up then. You've seen the Horsemen. You've seen the NWO. You've seen D-Generation X. You've seen different variations of the Bullet Club. The Undisputed Era has been together for over 3 years without change. That's insane in wrestling.
I want to say give or take. We had Evolution in WWE, but I don't remember how long they were.
It was about 1.5 years.
Oh, damn. All right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, you're totally right. Yeah. But yeah, that is the longest team for like WWE to have.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think it just shows to how dedicated they were to make Undisputed Era the best thing in NXT. Because hands down is really one of the best teams.
Oh, I completely agree. I think they're the best thing in NXT, not named Karrion Kross or maybe Toni Storm, who I think, by the way, she is going to carry that. She's going to be the next flag bearer for NXT moving forward. But let's jump over.
I can see that.
You are an AEW person. You love you some AEW. At least you follow them a lot. Let's break down a little bit from last night. I want to start with this. I was talking to a colleague of mine on the phone before AEW aired, and I said, if we get nothing else from tonight's show, I can almost guarantee you we're going to get a passionate, intense Jon Moxley promo. He delivered one.
Oh, my God.
What is your take on this Omega Moxley feud? Because I'll say for me, I love the again, much like the Undisputed Era, I love the overall story of it, but I have no interest in seeing an explosive, death-defying, barbed wire, on fire, death match of doom, or whatever we're calling it. What do you think right now?
I have no desire to see that either. I really don't. And here's my reason why. So, I really don't like throwing around wrestlers' age and using age as like, a stop or a blockage. Sure. But at this point in Kenny Omega's career, I think that he should be a little bit more safer and focus on like what he knows. I understand he wants to like probably break out and do some stuff that he never done before. I totally get that. But an exploding barbed wire match, you couldn't do another lights out match or another hardcore match where I know that you'll be safe and you'll be waking up tomorrow and you're not going to be like, oh, I got injured. Like Kenny Omega is my number one. He's hanging on there by a thread. Jay White is slowly creeping in to take his place. But I just think at this time, like, he shouldn't be doing that. And then I watched the John Moxley promo, and I thought that was a very weak promo.
Okay.
Just because it didn't do anything for me. With John Moxley, his promos are a hit or a miss for me, depending on what it is.
Yeah.
So this one was definitely a miss. What I really don't like is that, when Kenny Omega won the AEW Championship title on December 2nd of 2020, and we had the whole Don Callis thing, and it turned wrestling on
upside down.
Yeah. Right?
Yep.
So, I was like, oh, this is great. I'm invested. Here comes like actual storytelling, right? And here we are down the line doing stupid comedic shit. Oh, sorry if I don't.
You're fine.
Okay. Doing stupid stuff, right? And I'm like, you and Don Callis was the hottest thing going, and you guys could have took the world by storm, and you guys could have been like, it's just us, it's us two, and then we're gonna hire everyone else to stop John Moxley so that way he doesn't get the title back. Like, the person that should be getting the title right now or trying to go for it is Hangman. Hangman needs his redemption story. Like, I'm going to keep ranting about it, but but it bothers the hell out of me that we went from a serious issue, meaning that Kenny took over AEW hostage style, to a comedic Kenny Omega. Why?
Yeah. And as a writer, I hope the people listening to this understand that you're not bashing it to bash it, or that you're not bashing it because you dislike Kenny Omega. You said he is probably your favorite wrestler in all of wrestling right now. Instead, as a writer, as somebody who appreciates storytelling, they went from this hot point A, right, where they started, and then as you're following the story along, it's like they drifted away from the main idea of the story, in which we now own AEW. Kenny Omega and Don Callis now owns AEW, and we're coming to own the entire wrestling business on our own. That's the story I thought they were going to tell as well, but now they've drifted off, and it has become almost a caricature of Kenny Omega with the shirts and the pants and the boots and he's never been the strongest promo, but when he gives a short, intense promo, it tends to go very well. I thought his promo with Moxley last week, you could at least see the pain in his face and him having to create a match to finally rid of John Moxley, because he doesn't want him to be around anymore. But I agree with you. I think they've drifted off too far away from this hot story point to begin with.
You basically took everything I said and said it 100% right. Like, exactly that. And this is why sometimes it frustrates me, because, I know that Kenny has all this potential to tell an amazing story. You don't always need violence to get your story across, to progress it. You really don't. Sometimes simplicity is the best when it comes to in-ring storytelling, but for the past month, I've been watching New Japan Pro Wrestling, and there is a big difference between the audiences when it comes to fans. So I appreciate everything I watch from the Bullet Club, and I'm like, oh, I get it. I get the story inside the ring. Sometimes that storytelling element in the ring for Americans are it gets lost.
Yeah, let me say this to wrap up the Kenny Omega talk here, because Kenny Omega had 4 matches with Okada. 4, right? 4 with Okada, or was it 3?
No. Wait, 4. Yeah, it should be 4 or 5. One of those two.
He had 4 major matches with Okada, right?
Yes.
That told an amazing story.
Yes.
Right? None of them featured barbed wire. None of them featured broken glass, or chairs, or tables, or anything else. It was, we are the 2 best wrestlers in the world, and we're going to draw every eyeball. And they let Kenny Omega. So my biggest pet peeve with Kenny Omega and AEW is the fact that he is arguably, I think there's 4 names, maybe 5 names right now, but consistently speaking, I think it's Kenny Omega, Johnny Gargano, AJ Styles, Seth Rollins, in some kind of order. I'm sure Ospreay and Jay White. I don't watch enough of them, to be honest, but they're there as well, right? He is one of the top 5, 6 wrestlers in the world in some kind of order. Some people say number 1, some people say number 6 or 7. But regardless, we're talking about the top 6 of thousands of wrestlers in the world, right?
Yeah.
and that he hasn't had that constant showcase of, let me show you why everybody tuned into New Japan to watch me fight Okada. Let me show you why we got WWE fans to flip over and watch some New Japan to watch me fight Okada, because I'm the best wrestler in the world. And that's my biggest pet peeve with Kenny Omega and New Japan, is we don't see enough of that guy.
Well, I do want to add on to that too, that in the Young Bucks book, they were saying how Kenny was always talking about that he can't really keep performing at a high level like he did in New Japan with Okada. Sure. And, I totally get that. But, there's other ways to work around it now that you're in AEW. And, he doesn't really have to give us 5-star matches every single week. But I just want consistency in his character, in his story, rather than trying to do this flip-flop of we were serious on December 2nd and then all the way now, I'm just going to be comedic and funny and a little bit lighthearted, because now you got to think about it from a story perspective, right? Jon Moxley cut that promo. And then we have Kenny Omega had a mini segment where he was he trying to build the set for the match?
He was building in what they quoted, the extermination chamber.
Oh my fucking god.
Oh my god. we're gonna move on, because I don't want to get into that. That's poor verbiage. They were trying. My belief is they're trying to play off the elimination chamber.
They were trying too hard.
Anytime you say extermination chamber, it's not very 2021. I'm going to say that.
No, I would agree with you. But before we move on to that, I just wanted to make the point, because I didn't know that they actually did that word, but I wasn't going to comment on that. I was going to say that now we have a change in the babyface heel dynamic, because right now when Jon Moxley gave that promo, I want to say that he's going to look like the heel. And now that Kenny's doing all the comedic stuff, he's going to look like the babyface. And this is going to be a weird transition.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes too many heels try to be the cool heel. I think you see it a lot with MJF. I think you see it a lot with Chris Jericho. And I think they're fantastic at what they do, but I think if you have too many cool heels you actually end up having no cool heels, or no heels at all. But you said the Young Bucks name. Also last night, we saw the Young Bucks dad get beaten and bloodied and thrown into a truck.
I do not mean to laugh, but yeah.
First off, I want to say, don't take it. Look, I'm sure their dad has always wanted to be a part of a wrestling something with their kids.
Yeah.
So look, put him in there. Let him get his moment with his kids. I'm cool with that. I don't see a big issue with that at all. I will say this: you do have a match with Chris Jericho. You could have done this angle with FTR, right? Like if FTR would have bloodied the dad,
right?
I think that does more for those characters than it does for Jericho and MJF, right? Because Jericho and MJF are the over arrogant, pompous pricks of AEW, right? And Jericho's one of the top 10, 20 best wrestlers ever in the history of the business. Yep. So I feel like you have enough there that you don't need to do all the other stuff. Their titles are on the line. What do you make of the story right now with these two? Or these four?
I honestly thought that Jericho and MJF were, first of all, the wrong pairing to team up, only because I'm just like, Sammy and Jericho had a thing going. It was nice. I just don't think that they needed to be in this position to fight the Young Bucks. I still want my rematch between FTR and the Young Bucks, because the story that was told in the first match was really bad, in my opinion. Yeah. And I think that FTR needs to have a redemption story, because right now they're just dangling in space right now, and I love them. I love that tag team. I just think that you're right, that it would have been a huge impact to have FTR, go after the Young Bucks dad, because the intensity would be there.
Well, not only that, but to your point, right? I think most everybody wants to see another match between the two, but the Bucks have already beat FTR. Right? Yeah. So why would the Bucks want to fight FTR again? Well, you have FTR beat their dad up in the parking lot. Boom. Now you have personal reason to want to put those titles back up on the line against FTR.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is called storytelling.
Honestly, I think I'm in the minority of people that I prefer storytelling over everything else in wrestling. I think it is the single most important thing in wrestling. Actually, a lot of people ask me all the time, why do you like Monday Night Raw so, or at least over the last year and 2 months? And I said, well, at least they try to tell a story up and down the card. They do, and they also tell a story throughout the night, which I don't think many wrestling promotions do. Like last night, you didn't get, we didn't start with Archer and Phoenix and end with, or even start with the TNT ladder match and end with Archer and Phoenix, which would have told a story throughout the night. Instead, we started last night. I forget what Hangman Page, I think, right? It was the Matt Hardy Hangman Page angle.
Probably should have. It looked like an opener.
So I mean, you started with that, but let's transition into that because you had mentioned Hangman Page before.
Yeah.
Should be the next feud for Omega. He's feuding right now with Big Money Matt. Oh my God. And flirting again with the Dark Order. Do you like him paired with the Dark Order? And the match with Matt Hardy is to give him a big win after some big losses, over the last few months. What do you make of all this?
All right, so Hangman Adam Page is one hell of a talent in the ring and outside of the ring. I love the bits where he is hanging out with Dark Order, and I thought that it would have been a really nice addition to Dark Order because he doesn't have to be with the group 24/7 like he would with the Elite. He can go out on his own. He can have his own matches. He can have his own thing. He just knows that the Dark Order is behind him, and they're always going to have his back. Cool. Yeah. That would have been nice. It would have gave him the confidence booster that he needs because back in 2020, his whole character was that he was slowly spiraling down into his own demise.
Yes.
And then if he would have joined the Dark Order at the beginning of the year, that would have picked him back up and he would no longer be the anxious millennial cowboy that he's trying to portray. And right now, it's like, one, you don't need to feud with Matt Hardy. Doesn't need to be there at all. Hangman is one of those characters that he's floating in limbo.
Yeah.
And I hate it. I really, really hate it because there's so much potential in him to grow. And I think right after Kenny defeated him, he should have been like, no, I can't have this. He was the first person to be like signed and then to have his match against Jericho to be crowned either the AEW champion or not. And you're just going to be in limbo after all that time and not have this fire to come back and be like, Kenny, I need that belt. Like, that's my name on it. There's no confidence in there. And I'm like, the longer that this sad story goes on with Hangman, I don't want to be turned off to Hangman. I don't want to look at my TV screen and be like, oh, it's Hangman. No, I want to be looking at my TV screen and be like, Hangman, we got to do this. You got to get that next win. You got to go to Kenny Omega. But are they doing it? No.
The story for Hangman Page should be, and I'm going to say, we'll give him the Matt Hardy feud, whatever. The next Dynamite, it should be him calling out Kenny Omega. And say Kenny Omega doesn't have to come out. It should be him calling out Kenny Omega and saying, before the end of 2021, I am going to take that championship from you, and I am going to beat everybody who gets in my way for it. And then I would just line him up with feud after feud after feud after feud, where he just completely beats everybody in his way, then beating Omega at what is all out's the last pay-per-view of the year, right?
For AEW. It should be. I mean,
but yes, so you put the end of the year, that should be your big match. That's your payoff, right? That everything is right there to be told. Let me ask you before we leave here today, let me ask you a couple more questions. March 3rd, big day for AEW. Shaq will be in a ring. Tully Blanchard would be in a ring. What do you think about that?
I just found out that Tully Blanchard is 67 years old.
He is.
And I was like, he does not look 67 at all.
He doesn't.
Like, I was like, what? I'm going to mark out when he gets into the ring. He'll be okay. I'm just going to mark out. I do not care for the Shaq
Cody
and like Cody thing at all. I really don't. I understand why they're doing it. I just don't care.
Well, here's the thing. Here's my only concern. Cody's got a bummed knee. Shaq is, in his mid to late 50s. Those knees have taken a beating his whole life because of how big he is, right?
Yeah.
So you're gonna have Jade and Red Velvet.
Yeah.
Really gonna have to carry this match, and I'm not saying they can't, but this match is going to ride on those two carrying 80% of this match in ring.
Yeah, I can see that.
So,
I mean, like I said, I'll watch it. I just don't really care for like, oh my God, I have to see it. It's one of those like, all right, it's there. What are you guys gonna do? And that's not to disrespect Jade and Red Velvet. Like Jade looks fantastic. I just want to see her in-ring ability.
She looks like $1 million star.
Yeah, she does.
Like if you were to draw up a women's wrestler in 2021, that's what they look like.
Yeah, she looks like $1 million.
She is the women's Randy Orton.
Yeah.
I mean, she completely looks the part, and I hope she can go in the ring because if she can, they have a marketable women's star.
Yeah, they do.
Is there anything else from the show or any angle or story going on in AEW or NXT right now that you'd like to touch on?
I mean, the whole TNT ladder match. Okay. That makes no sense. I swear. Yeah, so
it's
man.
It's one of those things where I feel like they fell into the WWE trap a little bit.
Yes.
Where they're like, okay, we want to make sure these 3 people get in, but we can't really have Cody wrestle anyone to qualify because he's got the match with Shaq, and we want to make sure we're not deviating from that angle too much. But we're going to go ahead and put him in that match, and then we're going to put 2 others in the match, but then we're going to have the other people qualify for it. It was just, look, I don't have to have qualifying matches for everything. Especially if you have reason. Like if you would have said, 3 of the top 5 rankings, right, are going to be in this match automatically. The rest have to qualify. That makes some sense, right? There's some logic in there.
Yeah, I can. I could deal with that.
Who do you think? Who do you think would be better? First off, who do you think fills those final 2 spots? And secondly, who do you think should win this? Because I'm of the belief they need to get this title off of Darby.
Oh.
And I can explain why in a minute if you'd like me to, but
I mean it's probably because Darby has a different way of presenting himself as a wrestler and presenting himself of what it means to be a champion. So I think I could probably get why. But
so my reason why, real quick, right? I think Darby is one of the best people they've built so far.
Yeah.
I think Darby is an underdog fighting champion. There's some money in that.
Yeah.
But you've stuck him with Sting and this feud with Team Taz. The title's not being defended at Revolution. And all of a sudden, I actually feel like the Sting rub has hindered him a little bit because I feel like the story has been Sting versus Team Taz, not Team Taz versus Darby featuring Sting, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I do want to add on too that when Darby and Ricky Starks was feuding, that whole feud got like convoluted towards the end. So it was the weirdest thing ever, and then we keep going with it. So I get it. I get it where you're coming from that. Yeah. I can see that. For the participants in the TNT Championship ladder match, I would take out Cody because I don't think Cody needs to be there. You could leave Scorpio Sky. You could leave Penta. I know Lance Archer qualified last night. Either Lance Archer or Phoenix would have been great, either one of them. So I don't have a problem with that. But why is Ricky not in it? Why is Sammy Guevara not in it? Why is Sonny not in it? Like, why are these guys that they signed who are young and hungry not in it? Because essentially, you do have to think about it for us wrestling fans that this is like a mid-card title, even though it has a really high value to it, but just for the category's sake, the young guys that are the foundation of AEW are not getting treated the same as like the powerful superstars that already have 20 years in the business. Like there's no equality there. And then we have the ranking system, and it's like do we use it? No, not this time. We're gonna do qualifying matches,
I'm not going. I have actually stated my Twitter numerous times. I pretend like it doesn't even exist.
I think I do one of those.
And I do it because if actually, when I first launched this show years ago with Thomas Fenton, AEW had just launched and they had announced they're going to do a ranking system. And at that moment, I said, if it's not consistently used or not consistently done, I'm going to hate it because I'm a statistical guy, right? So
okay.
I need to know values. I need to know why we have this. And they don't present that all the time. So I just pretend like that's not there. But they did say the sixth person would be a mystery person that would be revealed at Revolution. Who do you think that might be? Or who would you like to see that be? Let me say that. Not a prediction. What would you like?
I honestly do not know. With everything that's going on with wrestling and all these partnerships, it can be anyone.
Right.
But imagine if I don't know, Kenta popped into my head only because tomorrow he's facing Moxley for the IWGP United States Championship, and Kenta's going to bring that belt back home to Bullet Club.
Yep. I'll
Moxley
say this.
ain't keeping it.
As a New Yorker that you are,
yeah.
How about Mr. Eddie Kingston taking that sixth spot?
Ooh.
And feuding with Darby Allin. Let me get a Darby Allin Eddie Kingston feud.
That would be great.
That would be great. They're going to bring in somebody from the outside, but as I'm looking at, Darby and Eddie, like that would make for a really good in-ring visual because Eddie could be kind of the bigger guy between the two.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You can let them two brawl. They'll bring the intensity. And I think that's the kind of feud that Darby needs if he's going to keep this title. And you can even put the title on Eddie for a short-term chase for Darby.
Yeah, definitely.
I would love to see Eddie in that match. But yeah, unless there's something else you want to talk about, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and your work?
All right. So again, I'm Marie Shadows. I'm the host of the Square Circle podcast. I have my wrestling articles over at theringcrew.substack.com. I just enjoy everything professional wrestling. You can follow me on Twitter at Marie_Shadows. I am so rusty doing this ending, but it was a wonderful conversation about wrestling. Yeah. And you guys can definitely bother me on Twitter about wrestling and talk about New Japan and AEW and whatever NXT I catch. Right now, wrestling is in a good place. Even if we have disagreements and negative comments, but at least they're still doing it for us during this pandemic. So at least give them, all the thanks in the world for it. But this is wonderful. We got to do this again.
I had a blast. I will certainly have you back. Maybe I'll have you come on one day and you can help me understand more the New Japan pro wrestling landscape. That could be fun, but I'll definitely have you back on. I think you bring a very good mind of a writer as a storyteller and as somebody who appreciates that. I think it's something we don't talk about enough in the content creation space. I know we do a lot of fantasy bookings, but again, there's not a lot of substance in those fantasy bookings. It ends up just being what I want to see rather than what I can logically see happening.
I see it all the time on Twitter, and I'm like, well, what's your reasoning for this guy to fight this guy? Like, why is that happening? Even in my breakdowns, just to throw this out there for the New Japan stuff, I've been giving English commentary because I want to get into that. And I've been doing. So what I do is I mix the play-by-play because I write everything down word for word. I mix the play-by-play with giving you guys the story of what's happening between these guys from like the past and like the backstage comments and try to bring it all together to make it amazing for you guys to like understand it. But I don't mind helping you out with whatever New Japan I know.
I'll have to because look, Jay White is incredible. I did watch Wrestle Kingdom. Jeff Cobb is somebody I like a lot. I thought Will Ospreay. He feels like a guy, and I don't want to rob talent of New Japan, but Will feels like a guy that if he came to WWE, he could be a star. He's got a look. He's great in ring.
He does, but I think he'll get the same treatment as Ricochet.
In a sense. Or he could get the treatment of AJ.
He could too.
It's one of those. It could be anywhere in between, right? Like because even if he had Nakamura's career, how many guys would sign up to be a Royal Rumble winner and win every other title in the company?
That's true. Only probably a few guys we could count on our hands.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'd love to talk New Japan one day, but that's all the time we have for now. Marie, thank you again, and now we're on to our next segment of the show.
Thank you so much, Marie, for that. That was a really interesting breakdown of storylines from somebody who went to school to be a writer, who's worked for WWE, and who wants to be a writer in the wrestling space. I really appreciate her opinions there. And that's about it. That's all I have for today. If you have any questions that you would like me to answer on the show, Friday's show, I will open up some of those questions and answers. I'll also be giving my WrestleMania predictions tomorrow, what I think the card's going to be. Next week, special guest for the Go Home show, next Thursday, Just Incredible will be joining me to break down AEW and to look at Revolution. I'm excited to have a former world champion on my show. It's going to be a blast. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe, hit the thumbs up, hit the little notification bell if you want to know when these episodes drop. And until next time, be awesome.